Okay, there we go. So, this morning, I woke up. In fact, when I got the invitation to do this, I was supposed to be speaking tomorrow, which is Thursday. Is it Wednesday, Tuesday, or Wednesday we're in? Today is Wednesday. So I was supposed to be speaking tomorrow. And so I'd already committed before I got this invitation to do another program in the U.S. But when I saw the invitation, I said, hey, let me see if I can find a way to get here. So I asked them to book my ticket for me to arrive this morning so that, tomorrow I can do the session. They did all that. Then Delta Airline changed my ticket to travel a day before I was supposed to leave for the U.S. That was drama number one. But this morning, woke up by 4 a.m., rushed to the airport by 5 a.m. to make a 7 a.m. flight. Everything was going well. We boarded the flight. The flight was already taking off on the tarmac. The plane was already going. And then what happened? As soon as we took off, all of the alarm bells in the airplane went off. Woo. So the pilot came. You know how you take off and then, the wheels are already going off? And then the next thing we did a 180, and then he turned around and said we had to do an emergency landing. Everybody's life flashed before them. So it was like, whoa, what's going on? Anyway, we get down they told us that we had to get down, that, there's a glitch in their computer system, that they were going to get the engineers to come and fix it in 30 minutes. First of all, they said, sit on the plane, and they said, get down. And then after we got down, they said, come back up and take all your hand luggage and get down again. We did all that, then we went down and sat down. We were waiting. Nobody said anything to us. A friend of mine sitting next to me said, listen, I know you have something to do. I have something to do. Let's go and buy another ticket. We did that, went downstairs, got another ticket. This was for the 9 a.m. flight with the same airline. Then they called us to board. The people, our comrades that were with the 7 a.m., went crazy when they said, oh, yeah, 9 a.m., come on board. Of course, they blocked the entire place. So nobody could board, no airline, not just our own everybody. There was a free-for-all flight. There was blood. There was, people were fighting. It was mayhem at the Nnamdi Azikiwe airport this morning. Storytelling. So, what then happened? This is too much drama, and it happened. I'm telling you it happened. There are some people that are already tweeting about it. This morning, yes. So, at Abuja. So somebody then came and did what they should have done 2 hours ago, which is pacify the people that were on the 7 a.m. flight to say, we're sorry, this happened. We're concerned about your safety. We understand that you are annoyed that nobody talked to you, and then now there's another flight from the same airline about to board other people. We want to prioritize you, blah, blah, blah. We'll compensate you. Everything calmed down. Then we got on the plane, and then an old man who looked like he was in his 70s, early 70s or mid-70s, who was supposed to be on the 7 a.m. flight, did not change to the 9 a.m. flight, got on that flight and refused to come down. And for 45 minutes held up our flight. And they had to bring in the air marshals to come and carry him out. It was another mayhem. Anyway, I won't tell you how the story ended. Come and meet me after this session if you want to know how it ended. This is to make sure that you stay until I finish talking. But, as I sat down there and I started asking myself, because some of you who know me know I hate stress. I don't like stress. I already have a very stressful life that anything that stresses me, I kind of zone out of it. And I kept asking myself, what would be the worst case scenario if I don't make this event? We refund the tickets to Surge Africa, right? And send my kind apologies. It was important for me to be here because of some of the people that I have met at Surge Africa. 5 years ago, I met Nasreen. We were both stranded at an airport. It was another airport drama, right? And she spent the night in my house. She didn't have anywhere to go. We were supposed to be traveling to Uyo together. Nemo had invited, or was it Port Harcourt? Nemo had invited us for something. And so we spent that night. And she told me about her dreams, what she was working on. South Africa was part of that story. So I've been part of the beginning of a story that brings us here today. And for me, it was important for me, because every time they've invited me, 85% of the time I show up. I show up because it is very rare to find young people who have ideas and are committed and are passionate continue to wake up every day and push those ideas. So wherever I see her, whether it's at Oxford, at the Skull Forum, or it's in Nigeria, somewhere, I meet her in Milan, I always stop and give her a hug and a word of encouragement, because it is not easy. I am almost 50, doing what I do, and I could tell you it's not easy. So when I see a young person, when I see young people, you know, whether it's Ania Betts or whether it's Fatima, pushing, just continue to push against the bulwark of a country where it's very difficult to make even the slightest of progress. Of course, if you can stop and give a hug and say, well done, and say, wow, I see you, it matters. So it mattered to me to be here, because at some point I was just going to call it quits and say I'm not going again, right? So I'm happy to be here. Thank you. All right. So I was asked to speak about the front lines, how you do what you do. And I'm just going to tell 3 stories and then, you know, wrap it up so that if you have questions, you can ask me and we'll make this interactive. Why do I do what I do? It's an interesting question because sometimes I also have to check and find out whether what I do matters and whether how I do it matters. But the stories that we tell ourselves and that we tell other people is what makes the difference about convincing the people that we're leading and convincing the people that we're serving that our work matters. I'll give you an example. An example is we were running something called Scaling Off-Grid Energy. I used to work for an organization called Power for All. And this is a global organization. I was a country director. I had a lot of young, smart people working with me at the time. And we were doing work across almost 12 states in Nigeria at the time. We were going to Kano. Kano was one of the states we were supposed to do work in. Missed the only flight going to Kano. The work we were supposed to do was happening the next day. So I said to the team, we better enter the road because everything had been booked. The hotel, the people that were coming, you know, and you know how big Kano is. People were coming from villages and communities. And so when we went on the road, hitting, after we passed Zaria, you know, if you ever travel in the north, you get a sense of how vast this country is. You can be on the road for 3 hours in the north and you will not see anybody, right? It's just, and you see grasslands. So we got to that sort of stretch, past Zaria, heading into Kano, nothing, we're not seeing anything, until we started seeing a bunch of cars. It was myself, a gentleman called Chibike Magbebu, I had another lady called Farida Adamu, and then it was Faisal Mohammed. Faisal and Farida, native Hausa speakers. Faisal even speaks full food, very fluently. So we saw cars stopping in front of us, and we were worried. We were saying to ourselves, well, we hope this isn't a problem. Maybe kidnapping had become a thing then, but it wasn't as rampant as it is now. But we noticed that the cars were parking on the side of the road. So the driver stopped, and then we got down. We saw other people getting down and decided to walk. Well, what did we see? Remember that our organization does renewable energy access. How do we get renewable energy into rural last-mile communities? There was a gentleman in Maisuya who had his suya stall at the side of the road where people were stopping to buy suya and refreshment. And remember, this was before the era of everybody having a power bank, right? Power bank is now something you must have. But at that time, it was not as rampant. 2017, 2018. So people were also stopping to charge their phones there. Because if your phone dies, well, until you get to Kano, there's really nothing you can do. So we started talking to the gentleman there. What caught our attention was that this man with his Mesuya stand, he had put zinc on top of it. He had solar panels, which was how he was getting people to charge their phones. And then he had solar coolers, where he was selling Coke, Fanta, Kunu, Zobo, right? And he was also selling suya, all sorts, assorted. So we started to talk to him. First of all, how did you get the solar panel? Who gave you this idea? He said, oh, some entrepreneurs were passing. They were doing some solar project near a village nearby. And then they decided to give him, he gave them free suya and drinks, and then they gave him, I think, 3 or 4 panels. And that's how he got his panels. I said, so how did you get the idea to start doing all of this other business? Where did you get the solar cooler from? He said, oh, one of them, he took their number and then he started asking, and how can he refrigerate his drink? So they gave him on a higher purchase the solar cooler. It was like a solar freezer, really. Then we started to do the economics of it. How much do you make a day, right? Because, the traffic there, the Abuja-Kano road is very busy. It was before, pre-train, the Kaduna-Abuja trains. Averagely, the guy was making, I think, about 370-something thousand, close to 400,000 naira every week. So you do the maths. We're talking 2018. Who has calculator here? Help me do this maths. Let's use 375,000 naira a week times 4. What does it come to? Remember all his products. He was doing drinks. He was doing phone charging. He was doing suya. There was masa. He was there 7 days a week. The only time they took a break was when they took a break for the Friday prayers for 3 hours. So 7 days a week. In 1 week, 375 times 4. And uneducated, literate, but uneducated in English language, is making what? 1-point-something million a month. Even some of us that have PhDs don't make that. Are you with me? Are you with me? Every time we feature this story, it tells the power of how energy access can transform. It tells the power around how energy access can create livelihoods. It tells a story of how energy access can transcend. Because in what world, think about it, in what world will a Musa be earning 1-point-something million in an occupation that is not blue collar, white collar, just pure entrepreneurship? Tells the story of Nigeria's resilience and entrepreneurship. Are you with me so far? So if he can do it, what we also say to a lot of the startup community that we work with is, why can't you? All he did was he just started from somewhere. He started with whatever he could lay his hands on. He was doing suya before he met the people who were doing solar. Start somewhere, right? So when we're talking about stories from the front lines, these are the stories that we tell. And that's my story number 1. Should I tell another story? Okay, let me stop there. You people are not interested. So let's... All right. So the second story I want to tell you is about another woman that we met. This woman, we met her in Niger State. We were doing a project with GVE. GVE is a mini-grid company, one of the biggest mini-grid companies, indigenous mini-grid companies we have in Nigeria. Started by a lot of young students at the age of 19 from Futo, and they have grown it over 10 years to this conglomerate that's doing massive mini-grids across Nigeria. Now they're even expanding to other countries. So they have this mini-grid that they did in Niger State, and that they were thinking about expanding. And in 2019, they hired us to come and help them do customer enumeration, demand simulation, helping them do all of the soft stuff, the soft things that engineers don't really like to do. Engineers just want to go and build their things, right? So all these other things that, how you go and knock on doors in those villages, go and sit in front of the palace of the traditional ruler, they are not interested. They are just designing the mini-grids and then they want to go and deploy. Are you with me? So they said to us, okay, you people like talking. Come and help us do this part. We will pay you. So we said, fine. So when we were in that community, on the morning that we were, one of the other things they were trying to do was to extend the electricity from that mini-grid to the primary healthcare center in that community. So we were at the primary healthcare center waiting for that primary healthcare center to open. When a woman came and had been badly beaten, she was bleeding and everything. We didn't even notice at first because she was covered. But when there were droplets of blood from her face and everything, one of the staff with me drew my attention to it and said, Miss Ify, can you see something is wrong? So I asked them to go and talk to her. Those who could speak Hausa, to please talk to her and find out what's going on. Here's the short version of the story. First wife, husband married second wife. Husband is a commercial motorcycle rider. That's his profession. Both wives don't work, very conservative part of the country. Doesn't bring in enough income. Children are out of school, so really no food. So the wife, when he gets home, if he hasn't had enough income or passengers on that day, starts to beat people up. So when the health center opened, we helped her get treatment. We paid for her treatment for that day. But we started asking her, I told them to ask her, so what can she do herself? So that they are not only waiting for when the man comes home, and because it's a recycle, it's a recurring cycle. You ask him today, he starts beating everybody, plus a mother plus children. So let's even ask you, what can you do to help the situation? Oh, she says she knows how to make kunu and zobo. But that in 1 hour, 2 hours, because of the humidity there, everything goes sour. If you don't refrigerate kunu or zobo, they go bad very easily. So she said if she had a way to cool it, that it will make life easier. I said, oh, that's easy. We know how to get solar coolers. I mean, we're in that business, right? So I said to her, we can give you one. We'll gift you one. So we called our partners in Abuja, Solar Sisters, and said, please, who is your representative in Niger? They sent the person to us. We said, we want one to come to this community. We want a solar cooler. We're paying for it. They brought it. We gifted it to her the next day. Then she called us, I think 3 days later. We were now back because we gave her our number. We're now back in Abuja. She said, please, that she needs 4 more because the cooler we gave her can only take, I think, about 10 bottles. But that when she opens it by 9 a.m., that by 9:30, 9:45 a.m., she's sold out. So that she needs a solar cooler to be making more. So at that point, I told her we will not dash you. We will do it on pay as you go. You pay us small. She said, no problem. So we asked Solar Sisters in Niger State to please give her 4 more. She paid us. We gave her a 6-month payment plan. She paid us in 2 months and then asked for 11 more. Anyway, our sister now is a big employer of labor in Niger State. She's still going strong. She employs, I think, about 13 people, 13 other women. She's now a trainer of trainers with Solar Sisters. She's now a distributor for Solar Sisters. Her kunu business has gone nuclear. She says anytime she makes it by 12 noon, it's all gone. We check in with her from time to time. Again, these are the stories from the front lines. This is how renewable energy can be transformative. This is how women can get out of domestic violence. When we went to Niger State, we were not thinking of stopping domestic violence. That was not our mission, right? We were there to do renewable energy mini-grids and solarize a health center. But you can see the impact, again, in how it creates a barrier or a wall against domestic violence. And these are the stories that are not told often enough. So please clap for this, my sister in Niger State. I have one final story. I don't know if you people want to hear it. Beg me now. Only Ikenna said please. So Ikenna will tell you when we get to Abuja. Okay, you want one more? Okay. If I tell you this one more, I'm going to leave you with a call to action before I tell you the story. Because very often, we don't want stories to just stay at the story level. We want people to take action or to do something with the stories that they hear. So I'm going to ask you, with all of these things that you're hearing, what it is shifting for you in terms of how you do your own work. Think about it. And if something shifts, how do you carry yourself? How do you carry other people along? Now, my final story is really about my organization. I can tell you that I never planned to be an entrepreneur. It was never in my agenda. My parents were civil servants, 9 to 5. Civil servants from the 60s and 70s when Nigeria was still good, right? So the discipline I had was you get up, you go to work, you come back by 5, you're shut down, right? There were no laptops or cell phones to be disturbing you after 5 p.m. So that was my orientation. Now, I started Clean Tech Hub for 2 reasons. One of them was after the Chibok incident, when I used to work for government at the time as a senior aide to the former Ministry of Power. And when that Chibok thing happened, my minister along with other ministers, were one of those that were delegated to go to Chibok, to go and meet some of the girls who had escaped. And I remember that meeting because, I had just become a mom for the first time then. It was, you know how, it messed with my head. Let me just put it that way. It was very emotional, right? Because you're listening to young girls who are telling you that all they wanted was an education. They were kidnapped from school, right? And all they were doing was studying for an exam. So all of the political chess games that were going on had really nothing to do with them. All these girls wanted was to go to school, get an education, and get a job. And you could see how torn and broken their lives will never be the same. And I say this because recently I also adopted an older child. This was somebody who used to be my nanny. She came to be nanny. She wanted to go to school. And we sent her to school. Then last year I was in Kenya with some of my Acumen people. I can't remember where we were. Was it Acumen or Aspen? When she called me, terrified, she's from Southern Kaduna, and her school then had taken a break, so she went back home to go and see her parents, and called me terrified. Kenya is 2 hours ahead of Nigeria, so by the time she was calling me, it was 1 a.m., so this was about 11, and just screaming, Mom, they're here. I was like, who again? She says, that they're here, these bandits and everything, that they're in so many motorcycles. I could hear her running, and she was panting. I said, who are you with? She said she's with her friend. I said, who's your friend? I can't remember the name of the person that she mentioned. I said, where's your dad? Her mom has been long dead. Where's your dad? Where are your brothers? She said, everybody has scattered. Anyway, so there was a period of 5 days where I didn't hear from her anymore. By that time, I had come back to Nigeria. I was contacting friends in Kaduna to say, this local government was attacked. Can you tell me where she is? I can't find her. Anyway, finally, they had migrated somewhere to Kano. And then she called me and she said, they killed her dad. She was even showing me, sending me videos of the dad's chopped up head, right? No, I have to tell the stories as vivid and as disturbing as they are, because this is what the country is doing to our children. My Didi is about 19 now. This was happening when she was 18. And I had just come back from Chibok in 2014 when I had met girls like her who were telling me the horrific experiences that they had gone through, right? Didi came to me in 2016 as a nanny for my kids and told me, all I want to do is go to school, because when you come to my house as a nanny, you must not leave my house as a nanny. There must be something you are doing. So I asked her, what do you want to do? Is it hairdressing? And she said, no, send me to school. So I said, okay, we'll send you to school. We did everything to try and get her to a school in Nasarawa, Abuja. It didn't work, so she ended up going to a school farther north. My daughter has not been the same anymore. I'm not her biological parent, but I'm her parent in everything else. If you look at every school document, I am her guardian and her parent. We've done everything to try and create some sense of normalcy for her, including get her therapy. I know that there is a part of her that is dead. So, remember what I started with when I was talking about Nasreen and the team? Why do you do what you do? What is it that pushes you to do what you do? What we do isn't easy. There's a lot of risks to it. Every time my team, we work with HBS, Ikenna is here. My team today, they're in Delta, they're in Ondo. There was a time when they were doing Ondo earlier in the year. They called me by 1 a.m. that they're just getting there, flight delays and everything. I told them, listen, in fact, find a place to sleep in the airport, because I don't even want to hear, anything happened to you. So, and I have a young team. Some of them are 21, 22. Some of them are in their 28, 29. Some of them are in their 30s and 40s like me. And I always ask them, why are you doing this? Why? Because you could easily go and work for anyone. Why are you doing the sort of things where you are working in frontline communities and where you know that your work is very underappreciated? Most of the time, the reason I remind myself about why I'm doing this, especially when I get all those international jobs that want to make me senior vice president, that want to take me, to go and become director for Africa for one, philanthropy, or, you get those jobs. In my position, I get all sorts of offers every single day, with international jobs. And a lot of my contemporaries are leaving. I have one who just took a big job in Netherlands, someone I thought would never leave Nigeria. But I have to remember people like Didi and people like those Chibok girls we met then, right? And people like the young people who are working with me. And it's not that I'm trying to be a savior. It is I'm trying to center my priorities and ask myself, what is important to me? Money is important too. And I made money in my former life. And maybe that's why I can do what I do. Because I'm not going to BS anybody and say, you need to stay in the trenches. But at every point in your existence, and in trying to shift the narrative, and in trying to create stories, you should ask yourself why you're doing what you want to do. And think about the stories of those you carry with you. And for me, that's what propels me till today. So that when it gets hard, when I feel like, if I can't continue to do this, why don't I just take this job at the IFC or the World Bank that is a complete fit? I know I can get the job. I remember the people that I'm called to serve. So ask yourselves those questions. Check in with yourselves about whose stories are you carrying? And are they important enough for you to stay in the trenches? If the answer is yes, stay. If the answer is maybe, keep questioning. There is nothing wrong in questioning. And if the answer is no, you can always decide that you don't want to do this anymore. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
So this is not really a question per se, but I just want you to know that Didi is not alone. Those Chibok girls are not alone. When the Chibok girls happened, I was also in secondary school. I was also preparing for my WAEC. It was WAEC period, I could remember very well. And I could remember that the state government in Kwara, they had to go to all of the schools and started pushing everybody out. We have to go home, we have to go home, we have to go home. And each time I look at social media and I see, that years of remembering the Chibok girls and what I have become, I always think about it. Not because I'm not doing anything, I'm not posting about them or whatnot, but there's always that reflection that this could have been me. I could have been in their shoe, and what would my family be saying by now? Well, I won't be in this room with any of you, right? So I just think that stories like this, they really inspire, and we just need to continue to share them. Because even listening to it now, I just feel like crying. Because these girls, they could have also finished their secondary school, find a career path, and probably be in this room with one of us, right? But we just keep remembering them. We keep telling their story to inspire more people to understand that this is not, as you said about money, everybody wants to make money. If you want to create impact, you need money. If you want to create impact, you have to go to the scariest spaces. Like you said it now, your team are young, you have the youngest team and whatnot, but you still have to create the impact. And you can't do it alone. So thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Question?
Yeah. Mita, I want to say thank you. The last part is actually making, it's so emotional and it keeps you quiet, Well, for me, I think with this workshop or seminar, it has shifted a lot for me. And a few years back when I started documentary with an NGO, it's called JEI. So the managing director asked me, if you are given money tomorrow to leave that slum and move into places like Lekki, house of 90 million naira, would you leave? Then at that moment, I'm like, my community is beautiful. I can use that money to change my community. I don't even know how that answer came that time, but I know that I'm in love with my community. And I don't want the history to just disappear. Then, about climate change. A year back, some scientists came to the organization to meet with the team, because it's like we are learning and doing at the same time. We are storyteller and we are from slum community, so we are learning and doing at the same time. We are telling our stories to change narratives about our communities, and at the same time we are learning. So they present a data about slum community disappearing into the ocean. in Lagos in 50 years. And I'm like, wow, does that mean my community is going to disappear just anytime soon? And what are the steps we need to take to save these communities is about talking about the things that are affecting us and how we can stop it, how we can stop this prophecy from happening, And today, what I get from here that shifts for me is that I shouldn't wait to get money or to become rich to tell that story, to change that reality, And is that I can use my mobile phone, I can use anything in my disposal to start doing something. And with your story, it's just like puts me into action that if I reach home, let me just go to our water side and just film that water side, post about it, just write something about it. Thank you very much.
I found myself in the airport space some few months ago, and I understand that some of the delays, some of them are actually have to do with the government moving, VIPs moving more than the weather. But the airlines will tell you that it's weather problem. But it's actually because VIP is moving and they have to close the airspace so that for safety and all of that. And that's why you experience undue delays sometimes. So I apologize for that. I think your two stories, I take two things away from the stories. One, we can be an accidental entrepreneur, and some of us may never be entrepreneurs. So it's okay, I guess. But you can be a social development advocate or social change advocate, whatever. So by deciding, no matter what, who you are, where you are coming from, if you just open your eyes to your environment, like she spoke about her own life developmental trajectory, if she compares with the people from Chibok and all of that. So I think it's okay for storytellers to also not be an entrepreneur if they can't find it. They can't find the magic, but more importantly, it's okay if they find a niche and they leverage on it. Thank you.
So my question is, what was your drive? So many things I want to do, but this thought of what if I don't get the right audience? What if I start and then I don't have enough funds to keep going, keep coming, you understand? So what was that thing, or who was that person that motivated you to start? And what was your means for sustainability? Like, how did you keep going till this very moment? So that's my question.
When we talk about renewable energies, the biggest question asked is, and I think a journalist asked me that question one day, and I had to go around it, and the question was, can we industrialize with renewables? But when I hear the stories you've told today, it's a very touching and powerful story, because, and I say it sometimes, that where is the industrialization agenda to start with? Why are we not thinking about people who just want to sell Zobo and sell Kunu and give them the things they need to do those things? So how do you respond to that question every time? I know you've been asked this same question before. How do you respond to this question when you get asked, can we industrialize with renewables, and you know where that question comes from and where it's going? So I'm just asking you that question. What's the typical response you give when you get asked that question?
My simple answer to this is, it's not an either or question. Renewable energy, the path that Nigeria has taken through the Rural Electrification Agency is to use renewable energy for rural development. And that's valid. So all of those communities are villages that are unelectrified. Why do they have to wait until the grid gets to them? Because the grid might never get to them in our lifetime. Maybe not in 30 years, right? But then why do they have to wait for 30 years? Why can't we use mini grids or micro grids, solar mini grids, or mini hydros for those that are near the riverine areas to generate their own electricity? So it's not an either or. But the truth is that renewable energy is so advanced now that there are countries that are running their entire system on renewable energy. There are 8 countries that have run their entire country using renewable energy, some as a test case. And there's some that have integrated renewable energy up to 98% with their grid system. And the thing is that the science and the technology is only going to get better. Where there's a problem for Ifeoma, where there's a problem for me, is that we cannot industrialize at all as long as our electricity system is based on an import regime. It cannot happen. If everything, and this is the fight I'm having with donors and philanthropy, at the risk of them not ever funding me. If you're going to be doing renewable energy, why can you not help us build manufacturing plants here in Nigeria? Why do we have to import everything? The panels, the batteries, the charge controllers. It's just another fourth wave colonialism. Yes, because it's expensive. It triples the costs of us being able to deploy to those communities that need them. Right? My house is completely solarized. So whether NEPA brings light in my estate or they don't bring light, most of the time I don't know. Right? But the cost of what it took me that is a player in the sector, I paid the person who put it in my house, the company who put it in my house, over the course of 8 months. Me, as somebody who has agency and can afford things, it took me 8 months. So how does that help people who are lower income and middle income? The cost of these things will remain exorbitantly high if all we do is we import. Didn't you see recently that customs just increased the charges of every import, whatever? They released the schedule. Renewable energy was affected. So how are we going to reach electrification targets or even climate targets if the thing that is going to help us reduce our emission standards is so expensive to acquire? And that is the fight that we're fighting, both with the government, both with international donors, the World Bank. Help us build manufacturing plants here so that not only are we manufacturing these things here, we're also putting people to work, because the more you have manufacturing plants, the more people are able to go to work. Turn all these churches and all these religious houses into manufacturing centers. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about it. We need to have an active workforce in Nigeria. We have a lot of people that are not doing anything. And that is 90% of our problem. So when people are complaining about criminality, small robberies here and there, most of the time is, these crimes happen everywhere else, but they happen at scale in societies where people have nothing doing. So that is my point, that we have to think about how to reduce, the cost of acquiring renewable energy products. But it shouldn't be either or. We can do both. We can do large-scale grid projects and renewable energy projects. The last question about my story, I mean, it's online because I'm always asked to speak. I'm tired of speaking now. I now cede the space to younger people. If you ask me to, if it was not Nasreen, I would have sent somebody here to come and speak on my behalf, because my story is already out there. Like I said, I didn't plan to be an entrepreneur. I was the regional director for Power for All, first country director, then became regional director. And then when the program ended, because it was a program that was funded by both the UK government and the US government, I was about to go to another job that had been offered to me. But it was country director job for Nigeria, again in this, our energy access sector. And I didn't want to do a lateral move, right? I just felt if I was going to do anything, it should be something higher than that. Again, I worked in government. When government finished, the question was, should I move back to the US? Because I lived in the US for many years before I came back to become a senior assistant, senior advisor, first to Okonjo-Iweala and then to Professor Nebo, who was Minister of Power. Now, let me be very honest with you. When we started Clean Tech Hub, after our first year, we failed. We lost all the money because it was money that my father left money for his 5 children, right? So his thing was whenever any of us marries, that was his gift to us. So, he died and then, so the money was there, my own was there, and I just said, okay, when I finish government, let me start Clean Tech Hub. I can tell you I failed though. By 2017, we were completely broke. Didn't know if we were going to continue. It was Heinrich Böll Foundation under Christine K who came to our rescue. Because in a random conversation I had with her, and this is why I encourage you to attend forums as much as possible, because you don't know who you're talking to. I was just talking to her randomly and said, you know what? At this point, I have to just respect myself and go and look for full-time employment. Because this incubation thing I'm doing, accelerator thing I'm trying to run, is not working, right? That money that I had I had been gifted by my parents, my inheritance. I've spent it, squandered it on this whatever. She now said, oh, why don't you do me a proposal of something that you want to do? Let's see if we can fund you. The money wasn't a lot. I think it was maybe 5,000 euros or 10,000 euros. I mean, this was 2017, so it's significant, right? But you know what that did for us? It validated our belief in what we were doing, validated our mission, completely turned around our confidence, because I was already telling people, helping my team look for work. You know, these young people that are following me all and down, let me not just deceive them. Let me help them find work in places. But that completely changed the trajectory of Clean Tech Hub. Heinrich Ball has funded us every year since 2017. Every year. By December, they're already asking us, what is your plan for 2024? But as they are funding you, you must do the work. Because I see a lot of young people that take this money and just think it's for flanger. Yeah, flanger and everything. Yeah, no reporting, but do anyhow, do whatever. They will blacklist you. It is a small circle of development funders, and they all talk to each other. So if they give you even 1,000 euro and you misuse it, they talk to each other. They will tell you, do you know that Ify and her people could not account for 1,000 euros, and that's it. You are blacklisted, you know, completely from that sector. So you must do the work. Because we were doing the work, Heinrich Ball kept funding us, and they would introduce us to other funders. They introduced us to an organization called Ramon Leon Institute, who gave us who partnered with us to get a grant from the German government, up to, I think, about 500,000 euros. They validate us. Now we're in the running to win a prize of $2 million. One of our recommendations is coming from Heinrich Ball. The people who are giving the prize came to Nigeria. They met with Heinrich Ball, spent 3 hours with them. I was not at that meeting. I was not even in the country. And they were calling me to tell me that Heinrich Ball kept them for 3 hours talking about our work. So remember, they talked about 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, so 7 years of funding. They had enough projects to keep those people mesmerized. We've been doing the work, and it's not been easy. If Heinrich Ball has ever funded you, you know how difficult they are. But you stick in there, you do the work, right? And even when it gets hard, please have people you can go and talk to outside. I have the people I call my coach and my mental health check. Because sometimes this whole thing we do gets heavy. Sometimes you get discouraged. Find the people who are your, you know, I call them alignment partners. Wale just left the room. Is he there? No, because he knows I was going to call his name. Where is Wale? Wale will tell you how many times I have dragged him from Lagos to Abuja. There was a day what's the name of that restaurant? Yeah, I was crying. I was a complete mess. He knows my whole story, both the messy parts and, you know, everything. But I lean on people like him because he can call out my bullshit anytime and tell me, listen, okay, what's your part in all this? You can be blaming every other person, but are you seeing how you're presenting in this sort of situation? And you need people like that who can give you reality check. And you honor them and adore them, right? Don't joke with your mentors or your promoters. Everybody who has been a promoter in my life, I have given enough honor. I'll tell you this last story and give the mic away. I got admitted to Harvard Law School when I didn't know how I was going to pay. The school fees then was, I think, 65,000 USD in 2006. Now I hear it's almost 100,000 or something. And this is for a 1-year master's program. Did I say my parents were civil servants? And my father was not the kind that knew how to do Odu, or, you know, he didn't. I mean, thank God he didn't know, but, you know, sometimes you'll be wondering, were they blind when their mates were doing all these sort of things? So didn't have anything. Harvard gave me a 20,000 USD scholarship and told me to go and look for the remaining almost $49,000. From where? So you know what I did? I called somebody who said to me, oh, write to Wale Babalakin, SAN. And he used to sponsor people and everything. For my first master's, Wale had given me $10,000, didn't really know me. So I said to the person I said, but this man just gave me $10,000 2 years ago to do my first master's. The girl said to me, Fumi, said, I don't know him, I've never met him, at least you met him, and he gave me at least $20,000 for my own Harvard LLM. So write to him. So I said, okay. I couldn't bring myself to write. So what I did was I called him. He picked up his phone and he was like, I'll call you back, I'll call you back. And I said, okay, sir, I'm going to send you an email. I wrote an email, attached the admission letter from Harvard and the scholarship letter they gave me, and said to him, sir, I got into Harvard, but I think I might defer because I don't have the money. I have to raise 49,000 USD. You know what he did? He called me back immediately, the email landed. He said, you got to Harvard. I said, yes, sir. He said, you will go to Harvard. Then sent me some money, told me he's going to talk to friends of his, who now sent money. See, I've met Wale Babaleki only 3 times in my life, right? Twice before that incident and once since I came back to Nigeria. But what I found out in that process was that Wale also did that for a lot of law students who got into Ivy Leagues, whether you were in Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge, whatever, Princeton, Berkeley. He did it. You are an indigent student. You don't have the money. You got into an Ivy League and you're a law student. He will meet you halfway. So he did meet me halfway. There were some other people I called who then, so I went to Harvard. Last year, I wrote a long post about Wale on my Facebook page, right? Every birthday of his, I never forget to call him, since that's 2006. I called him that day, wished him happy birthday. Then I went to my Facebook wall and wrote a very emotional post about him. It went viral. The thing was coming back to me. People I hadn't heard from in 20 years were saying, wow, I just saw this on my WhatsApp platform. I saw this. Wale himself then calls me and says, I was not expecting this. I wasn't expecting this honor. See, this man is so rich, there's nothing I can give him. I cannot buy. What am I buying for him? Are you with me? There is nothing I can give to him to honor him for giving me this opportunity I have. I speak with authority. Harvard is one of the backing I have because people like Wale believed in me. I never forget those sort of things. It's not just him. So I honor people who have helped me. And I feel like that honor I give to them continues to propel me. Because you know what, people like Wale or Chichi Anagolu, who is the regional director for Ford Foundation, she was my first ever boss. I didn't even know how to type when she grabbed me and made me her PA. These were the people that shaped me. So when you are in rooms and you are not there, they are mentioning your name. If Malo can do whatever, even if I don't know how to do it, they'll come here and tell me, I spoke to so-and-so foundation. I told them that you are the person to talk to. That is what will propel you. Thank you.